Chess is simple once you understand what I'm about to share with you today. It's gonna save you hours and hours of memorizing those never-ending opening lines and watching those useless opening traps videos. What's up, chess player, and welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster, the place where you can improve every single aspect of your chess game. So my opponent plays with me d4. It's tournament game. He is around 1800 rated player, and I'm gonna share with you this because he played the London system, the opening that so many YouTubers, streamers, everybody is advocating, is suggesting you play. I don't, I hate this opening, but my main point is here, it's not really about this opening choice. If you are below 2000 ELO, it does not matter that much which exact opening you play. What matters much more is that whatever you choose, you understand the ideas there. You don't need to memorize stuff. It just does not make any sense, because chances are you're memorizing the line, you come to a game, and then your opponent from the very beginning, he does something completely different, and you're completely out of book. That is not gonna help you to play better chess. But if you understand the ideas of the opening you play, first of all, it gives you a much better understanding of the game in general, and once the opening is over, everybody is out of book, you understand what to do next. So that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. My opponent plays here c3 because he wants to reach this London system thin with bishop to f4. The problem is, even though he memorized those first moves, he has no idea what to do about it. And me, even though I wasn't expecting it, so I had zero knowledge in terms of what exactly I should play it, I outplayed my opponent in just like 10-15 moves. He was completely hopeless. He never castled in this game. Can you imagine that? And this is 100 times more important than memorizing any of the opening lines. So understanding these key opening principles would win you 100 times more chess games than learning those endless opening traps. So my opponent plays e3. I just go castles. I don't know the concrete lines, but I know the basic principles. I know that I have to fight for the center. I know that I have to develop my pieces. I want to bring all of them to the most active squares available. I know that I need to bring my king into safety, and afterwards I know that I need to put as much pressure on my opponent as possible. I want to create threats as early as possible. So in the best case scenario, you want to combine developing your pieces and creating threats against your opponent. To tell you the truth, that is absolutely everything you need to know to get to 2000 ELO in chess, because your opponent at this level is not going to be able to maintain the whole pressure to deal with all of the threats. He's going to start making mistakes that you're going to use and win the game. This is exactly what I did in this game. I'm playing c5 immediately here. I am not hesitating from creating threats, from fighting for the center, from just putting pressure on my opponent from the very beginning, because my king is already secure, right? That is like the first homework that you have to do before you can go all in into the attack. And my opponent failed at this miserably. My opponent played here knight to e5, and I would argue this is the first mistake. It started all of the problems. Why did he play that? Well, he memorized it probably because everybody is suggesting you do it this way. The problem is you're breaking the opening principle, the key one. One piece, one move. Why is that so important? Because if you do that, your opponent is going to develop many more of the pieces, and then you're going to get a huge disadvantage. It's not the question of how many pieces you have on the board. It's a question of how many active and useful pieces you have on the board. So I'm playing here knight to c6. That one move gave me the advantage, because now he still has the same amount of pieces developed, whereas I have managed to develop a new one, and I'll put the pressure on this knight on e5. Not only that, the d4, you're gonna notice in a second how important it is. Even though it seems like it's 100% secure, it's not. If you can create enough pressure, then your opponent is going to be in trouble. He plays bishop e2, and seems like he is ready for castles, and that's great. But he wasted that time. Not only that, he started going into the attack before his king is secure. This is such a huge mistake. Now I'm playing queen to c7. I'm attacking this knight, and it's already not simple. The engine already says it's better for black just because of this one little thing, and now you're in trouble. because you need to solve problems. This is the best strategy that you can have in chess if you want to get to 2000 ELO as fast as possible, to put as much pressure on your opponent as possible from the very beginning of the game, but you don't want to play hope chess. This is a huge difference. You're gonna play hope chess, you're gonna stay on the level you are right now, or it's gonna fall down even more. Why? Because you absolutely have to make useful moves for yourself. Like, for example, if I would have played knight f2 d7 back, that would be also creating a threat, but it's not a useful move for me, because I don't want to move my knight that is already developed twice, and I don't want to go back if I have a choice. I always want to go forward. I want to create threats to bring new pieces into the game. As simple as it sounds, 99% of all of the opening problems you have in your games, they all happen because you are not focused on these three key goals, golden rules that you absolutely must follow in the opening, or if you have missed some basic threats from your opponent. Even me, when I have some opening problems, I mean, I'm not perfect, even in my tournament games, if my opponent surprises me, because at my level, well, you actually have to memorize much more than you do at your level. I still try to avoid it as much as possible, but you just cannot like become a Grandmaster if you don't have a sufficient comprehensive opening repertoire. And so when my opponent surprises me and I get a different type of position where I don't understand the ideas, I'm just lost. And then chances are that I'm gonna make a mistake, a huge mistake, and get into trouble. But if you understand the ideas of the opening you play, then you don't really care that much what your opponent is playing. It's just because on my level, if I constantly play the same thing, then my opponent is gonna prepare against it with a computer, and I'm playing against a 3500 rated computer. It's never a good strategy, right? That is why I have to mix my openings. I have to play something different every time. And that is why I just cannot understand that many different positions, and then I might get into trouble. But if you play online, for example, you absolutely don't need to learn thousands and thousands of different openings. All you need is one opening that you understand, truly master the ideas as white, and the same for black. You absolutely don't need to know tons of theory, rather you understand the ideas. So how do you deal with it as white? The knight is hanging. My opponent went back. But why is it bad? Because he's wasting yet another time. It's a third move with the knight, and it's only the beginning. It's so horrible, you're gonna see it in a second. And secondly, because you are going back, whereas I'm going forward. It's always great if you can achieve it in your games. You're moving forward, you create a threat, and your opponent has to go back and defend. This is the best case scenario. And now talking about this d4 pawn. Remember, I have told you, sometimes the best strategy for you is to attack the most defended thing in your opponent's camp, which was the d4 pawn in this case. I've learned this essential principle from one of the best coaches in the world, Jakob Agard, in his Thinking Inside the Box book. It seems like it's so protected, but because it is that way, your opponent is not thinking that that's exactly where you're gonna attack him. Here is the problem. I'm just taking the bishop on f4. Now if you take with the pawn, your d4 pawn is not defended enough. But if you take with the knight, first of all, it's like force move with this knight. It's incredibly horrible. This is one piece that costed my opponent a game. He violated all of the opening principles. He wastes so much time with one piece, and that is why he does not have time for all of the pieces. And secondly, I'm taking here on d4. The knight is so vulnerable because after c takes d, I can take it with the knight again. I'm attacking the bishop. Yes, you can take it, but then I'm gonna grab your knight on f4. I'm threatening to play knight c2 with a fork, and you might say, okay, but why has this beautiful move rook to c1, a move with the tempo, and finally my opponent actually did something useful for him, but I just come back with my knight, and I have grabbed this essential central pawn. Remember, I have castled, so my king is completely secured. That allows me to do whatever I want. I don't want to hang too many pieces. This is a crucial thing that I want you to understand, because that's gonna save you from so many blunders you make in your games. And chances are, most of the games you lose because you blunder stuff. So if all of your pieces are protected, then it's so much more difficult to blunder your pieces. I have hanged one piece there on d4, my knight, because I saw, okay, he takes, I take. That's simple. If you are starting to hang many pieces, then it might get critical. Now my opponent plays b4. And this is something I want you to take away from this video and never ever repeat in your games. He has not castled, yet he's starting the attack, he wants to be aggressive, he wants to create threat. This is wrong. Like, if your king cannot be attacked, then maybe you can get away with it. And please don't throw at me those examples of Magnus Carlsen, of Hikaru Nakamura, who are just forgetting about castles at all and go all in into the attack. Well, if you're gonna get into the best 10 players of all time, then please do whatever you want. You can play e4, e5, king e2. I'm gonna say nothing against that. You have deserved it. But up to that point, please remember, before you go into very, very active actions and want to destroy your opponent, make sure your king is in safety. Let me show you why it's such a horrible mistake. I'm just playing here a6, I'm doing something useful for me. My opponent plays a4, he continues creating this threat, but I'm saying, you know what, you're attacking me on the side, so I'm gonna answer in the center because that's the best thing you can do. You have to open up the center, especially since your opponent's king is in the center so that you can attack it. Your king is completely secure. He plays knight to d3, I play e4, attack it again, and he goes knight b2. Can you imagine that? 1700 rated player. He played this tournament for 2000 ELO performance. That means he's like better than 99% of chess players on the planet. Yet he's making 6 moves with this one knight out of 16 moves to bring it to b2, where it doesn't even have a legal move to go, and it's even not protected. Literally any single one of the squares on the board would be better. Like even a1 would be better, because then you can go to b3 and c5 or g4, but on b2 has zero job to do. He was probably afraid if he goes back to f4 that I'm gonna play d4. That was one of my ideas. But now this knight, it's so bad. And this whole time costed him the whole development, and that is why black is absolutely winning here. But the second important step of the process, not only to get such a position, but to use it the right way. Let me show you the best strategy of how you can win in a winning position. Some say that's the most difficult part in chess. This video is brought to you by Chestnut. Chestnut is making amazing chessboards that allow you to play online from a real 3D board. They have high quality chessboards, nice looking chess pieces, so that you can enjoy and having fun playing it. Chestnut boards also have so many training functions that I absolutely love to use to my training, and it helps me to improve my chess every day. This is, for example, Chestnut Evo. I love to use it for my trainings, but they have so much to offer you depending on your preferences and your budget. And the best part is you can just use the promo code Journey to Grandmaster or click the link in the description to get a big discount on all of the Chestnut products. I'm playing queen to e5. I'm trying to make my every single move with a threat. So not only this knight wasted so much time, it's also unprotected and I immediately create threat, at the same time improving my queen. So the huge difference, you don't play hope chess, you make useful moves for yourself, at the same time attacking your opponent. White plays queen to b3. What do I do now? I try to do the same thing. I want to continue my development, bring more pieces into the game, and create threats for my opponent all at the same time. If you can combine that, then you have understood chess really well. I'm playing here bishop to e6. I'm creating this threat of d4. That's going to be a discover attack for my bishop. I develop a new piece. Now everything active, it just needs to bring my rooks. He plays queen a3 because he's scared of that. Now I thought, okay, this king is still in the center. Let me just make sure you never castle in this game, and that's gonna help me to win the game so much more. So I played queen g5. Yes, I'm breaking the one piece, one move principle. If you wanted to play rook c8 or rook e8 or rook d8, whatever, that's fine. I'm never gonna criticize that for you. But sometimes you should also take your momentum, should understand that, okay, it's time for me to strike. My king is secure, I have developed many more pieces than my opponent, so let me just use that momentum and destroy him, create those threats. Because if he castles, I have bishop h3 and at least win the exchange. He plays g3, and I play here bishop to h3 anyway, because I want to make sure that he never, ever castles. Why is that important? First, because this king is going to be in trouble. I plan to open up the entire center. And second, because this rook never gets into the game. He played knight to d1. This knight makes a 7th move. I mean, this is so horrible. And notice that it's a classical game. It's a tournament game. Very, very serious level. I'm playing here rook f to e8. I remembered now, okay, I don't want to be crazy. I don't want to take just a few of my pieces and try to destroy my opponent. Instead, I want to bring all of them. And then destroying my opponent is going to become so much easier. He plays knight to c3. This is move number 8 with the same piece. And finally, it has more or less normal square. But I immediately attack it with the move d4. Can you imagine that? Can you guess what white did next? Of course, he played knight to d1 back because he was afraid of opening up the entire center. And this way he thought, well, at least the pawn is protected. But you can never, ever make so many moves with the same piece and hope that something good can happen to you. This is the golden principle that I want you to take away and never, ever repeat in your games. So, I'm playing d3. I'm winning yet another tempo. What is also important, you don't need to win immediately. Even if your opponent is playing so badly, it's not like you have to think there, okay, I have to win immediately here, find a checkmate or something. No, you just improve your position step by step. You just bring all of your pieces into the game, and sooner or later, your opponent is just gonna collapse. You shouldn't care too much if you don't see a direct winning continuation. My opponent plays bishop to f1. I mean, look at the king. All of the pieces are going backwards like he's preparing for a new game and he already has the pieces ready for it. I'm playing queen to h5 here because it's a tactical defense. He cannot exchange the bishops. I'm gonna have queen to e2 check. And of course, I'm threatening bishop takes f1 myself. He is not afraid of that. He plays queen to b2, and now if bishop takes, at least he can take with the knight, and then e2 would be covered. I'm playing knight to e5, because once you develop your pieces, you also want to improve it to make sure every single piece has the best possible position. I don't advise you to make more than one move with one piece before all of them are improved, or at least almost all of them. This rook is still not developed, but I thought, well, it's not really doing that much on d8 anyway, or c8, because he also has his rook, but my knight on e5 can actually be very, very dangerous for my opponent. He plays knight to c3. I mean, that is yet another move with this knight. It was so funny for me at this point because I was trying to count those knight moves. Absolutely crazy, miserable knight there. And it's time for me to strike. So how do you finally break through? You also have to understand it, because in most of the cases, you of course don't have such an overwhelming position, but you have one chance to use the initiative. The first world chess champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, once said, if you have the initiative, you must use it. Otherwise, it's going to disappear and the advantage is gone. It's exactly about this activity advantage, because if you have extra material, that's all fine. You can just hang out a little bit, exchange pieces here and there. If you have an extra pawn, you're still gonna have it. But with the initiative, if you are not using it, for example, if you have a development advantage, if you're gonna give a few tempi to your opponent, he is gonna finally bring it home, make castles, and he's gonna be ready to fight. So you have to use this momentum and create those threats, which at the same time would be useful moves for yourself. So I'm going for it. I'm playing bishop takes f1, rook takes f1, and guess what? I'm bringing my last piece into the game. No matter how great your position is, the best way is always to bring all of them so you can use the full power of your pieces. f3. Okay, he's trying to break through at least a little bit, make one move, one active move in the game, but of course it's too late for that. I'm playing queen takes h2, grabbing that pawn, attacking the g3 one. And there is a beautiful ending here that you are going to enjoy a lot. He plays rook to f2. Now I'm playing queen to g1 check. He goes knight to f1, trying to defend everything, but unfortunately I play knight takes f3 check. You can take it, but then I'm gonna take it back. My rook is gonna open up, so he played king to d1. Seemingly everything is protected, although everything is extremely passive. Now I played the move d2. which is discoordinating all of his pieces. The rook on f2 is under attack, the rook on c1 is under attack, and there is absolutely no way to deal with all of the threats, so he resigns with the king in the center. I hope you enjoyed this game and it changed your approach to chess, your understanding of this game. So I want you to stop memorizing all of the opening lines you can find until you are at least 2000 ELO rated player. Up to that point, please choose one or two openings that fit your style and try to understand the ideas of it. If you need help with that, I have a dedicated program, 10-day opening mastery, that you can take a look in the description. It's allowing you to build a comprehensive opening repertoire both for white and black, which is focused not on memorizing, but on understanding. That's gonna help you not only in the openings, but also in the middle game. And also, if your opponent is doing something absolutely crazy, you still know what to do because you understand rather than just memorizing all of the lines. If you want to dive even deeper into the mindset that you must have to be successful in chess, I've prepared for you this video where I share my personal, incredibly vulnerable experience and the lessons I've learned out of it, so you can finally stop losing at chess and bring it to a completely new level.